Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm in College Station, Texas today, moving my daughter up here she's going to Texas A&M. So busy. But wanted to give you a little heads up. This is part 2 of that series where I'm visiting Joe's home, my last video. I hope you enjoyed that. I know a lot of people have. Lots more to come from there. We're going to do recordings. I'm going to play for you vinyl rips, tape rips. You're going to hear raw interaction and feedback real time. So whatever parts you like, whether you like music clips, you like my real time feedback, you're going to like tech talk about it. We're going to have a lot of that stuff. We're going to have a Zoom that parlays and stuff that was talked about in part 1. Stay tuned for that. I'm not going to spoil that just yet. But what this part is, you're going to get one music clip here, but it's a normal audiophile track he just wanted to play for me. But you're going to hear also my real-time feedback right after it. And what we focus on in just this video is going to be his spatial audio mods, because I think this is a key takeaway, not just from spatial in general, but just speakers in general, going to active, going to maybe changing the crossover points when you do go active, and also the resonance control. These are things particularly important with certain open baffle speakers and just speakers in general. There are lots of things you might be able to do on your side depending on your level of expertise, and now there are people you can engage, and I've got consulting agreement worked out in my YouTube store now, where if you do want to go this route, instead of buying gear over and over, I've talked about this in prior videos, this is another level to enjoy the hobby at a high value equation, and in many cases it's much more fun. But at least get a taste of what Joe did here and see if it's something that resonates with you, just for FYI purposes. But if it does and you want to maybe do some of the same type of stuff, I got the experts for you to help you out there. Enjoy, guys. Yeah, so that's really nice. I mean, I've heard these X5s before, but this is definitely a higher level of resolution, because I think, number one, what you've done to the cabinet, but also that crossover change. What inspired you to make that change? Was it because the tweeter was more friendly, operating a little higher, or?
When you read the specifications from BEMA and from Eminence on these drivers, they both tell you 1300 hertz.
Is that right?
So what I did with my friend, he built, because he's got the same, almost the same system I've got, Emerson does.
Okay.
And he and I both built these control panels, these control boxes with the passive crossovers. And we already knew what the 1K sounded like, okay, because it was built in. So I built one at 1300 hertz. He built one at 1500 hertz. He brought his over, laid it on top of mine, and then we listened.
Gotcha.
We could do the 1K, the 1300, and the 1500. And the curves showed quite clearly these drivers needed to be at 1300. And we listened, and we both said, not 15, not 1K, 1300 is the sweet spot. It just sounded better, but also it jived with what the graphs were telling us, coming from the manufacturers.
Gotcha.
So that's how we decided on the 1300. And also everything that we plotted using LT Spice with the passive was showing 1300. So that's where we put it.
Yeah, because that's one of the things I noticed different from normal X5 that I've heard. And it showcased the, actually rolling off higher, actually to me, showcased the value of the AMT in a lot of ways. I think that was the shining light of how great a tweeter this is, because you get a ton of detail. A lot of people just stick an AMT in any tweeter, in any box, and then think that it's going to get that performance. But crossing it over properly, utilizing it properly, amplifying it properly, you can get drastically different performances from an AMT. And that's what was really standing out to me, was the level of resolution and detail, especially near field as well. You know, obviously, when you get your Bach eventually, you're going to have amazing crosstalk with this kind of setup here. You basically are getting close to headphone resolution and stereo already at this kind of a listening position. But this is the type of setup where if you want to hear everything on the recording, for sure, this will help you do it, because minimal parts in the signal path, all the energy is being transferred to the drivers, and then especially that AMT tweeter provides those subtle things at the high end that a lot of systems don't resolve. So yeah.
Actually, you said minimum parts. In those amplifiers up there, there's only 4 active components.
Is that right?
2 tubes, 2 transformers. That's it.
Okay.
That's it. So minimalization, that really optimizes the sound. The more electronics you can get rid of, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah, and
there's no preamplifier in the system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't believe in preamps. I don't use preamps.
In a quasi way, you're doing it with your volume control here, and then you've got your active crossover, and you've got. How are you hooking up the subs? Are those through the crossover too?
The subs just sample the signal going to the mid.
Okay.
Okay, but they don't draw any power from the the red amplifiers. They provide their own. What I was about to say is on the control panel over there where those Slagles are, those Slagles limit my upper volume level. I just tweak it a little bit here.
Yeah.
Okay, only by about a couple of dB, but that does not interfere with the bits.
Yeah.
And
I meant to say this, the Slagle Audioformers, you guys that have been a long-time subscriber will know that they were in the $1 million system in Beverly Hills I featured with the Avant-Garde system that many consider one of the best that they've ever heard, that have gone out there. Major magazine writers and other people in the industry have considered that the best. And one of the pieces in there was, at the time at least, was the Slagle Audioformer style preamp. But yeah, we'll just keep on doing some more listening. But yeah, that was just my one song alone. Yeah, that's your.
This is the inside of the control box. These are the
Audioformers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Audioformers.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the high pass on one side, the low pass on the other side, the low pass, and the high pass. These are the actual passive crossovers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You see these little resistors right here?
Yeah.
These are Charcroft Z foils. Hideously expensive. There's a bunch of them in here. These are the finest resistors in the world. Okay. Over here, these are all MyFlex copper caps. Okay. And there's no inductors at this point because you're at line level. You're not dealing at speaker level.
Yeah.
So you don't need inductors here. So this is what splits the signal. Now I can bypass these or not. All this wire in here, this is all silver wire that I wind myself.
Gotcha.
Okay. So this kind of gives you an idea what's inside that box.
Yeah. And I mean, big inductors look cool in speaker passover parts, but you don't actually want your power from your amp being sent through all of those. The more crossover parts you have, it may look impressive, but oftentimes it does result in a better response because that's what you need for a certain driver complement. But ultimately, an active solution like you've done.
Well, it's actually, it's a passive analog. Okay, what I have is a passive analog.
Well, I guess because the autoformers aren't active in a way.
You know, they're
Yeah,
really,
you're not powered.
No, they're not powered. But key point I want to make is you have an inductor in a crossover. You're going to get back EMF as it bounces back and forth between that and your woofer. Okay, you're going to get back EMF, and it makes your bass woolly. And I know that because I actually have a crossover that I built here in case I want to run a single amplifier driving these things full range. And when I do that, the bass just doesn't sound tight.
Right.
When I go back to this guy,
Different story. Yeah.
it's a different story. You hear a difference in the bass. It's clean and it's tight.
And it brings up, I've been talking about active crossovers, and this technically isn't one, but most people aren't going to have a crossover like this. There's very few even on the market you can buy like this. But
well, actually, Thomas Mayer, I believe, over in Germany, will custom build one for you.
Okay. Yeah.
But they're about $22,000.
Yeah, exactly. So most people, you can get many of the same benefits from an active cross, because what he's talking about is that each amp is going to a single driver.
Correct.
Instead of these inductors and spreading the power around, the back EMF, all these things.
There's nothing between the amplifier and the driver except an iconoclast cable.
Yeah.
Which is about the best cable I can get.
Yeah. So, and that's why you're seeing many of the highest end reference systems in the world going to active, because the level of performance can increase when you have a single amp dedicated to each driver. And when you do it the right way, whereas some actives in the past have done cheaply, they've been budget speakers, and people have gotten this misconception that active is poor. But when done right, it has actually a superior topology to getting the most out of each driver, and you're actually hearing your amps, and it allows you to use these amps where these amps otherwise would not be able to drive a full range system.
I learned so much in this short period of time here, over now a day really, but over 2 days, that has changed the way that I think. And when I was a young kid, I was building my own amplifiers and speakers and whatever. This is just so refreshing, and one of the real treats of being part of maybe an audio society is where we're not in a trade show setting where everyone's just trying to hit all the rooms. Here we have the time to exchange information and talk and learn, and this is just wonderful. As a matter of fact, one of the clips that you should record is what was taken and transcribed off tape. His audience, everyone doesn't talk about tape.
Yeah.
When I restore a record, I go reel to reel, so I don't have to change records. I do my 8-track for my Corvair. I do my compact cassette for my Range Rover. All old vintage equipment. I use the AV input in my Range Rover. Forget about your XM radio, okay? Compact cassette. And by the way, they're all coming back.
All right.
And I will have a compact cassette tape cleaner.
Next
year.
New
This
product.
is a little new product. Yep. Because they're all coming back.
A cassette cleaner. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll give you a demonstration if you'd like to see it.
Yeah, let's go
I
ahead.
will play 30 seconds of a track, and then I'll play 30 seconds, basically of the same record. Okay, but there's a difference.
Okay.
Here we go.